Right now, as you are watching this video, Iran is striking back. Not in a metaphorical sense, not as a warning shot, not as a diplomatic gesture. Right now, missiles and drones are being fired at 9 countries simultaneously. Cities that were considered among the safest in the world, Dubai, Doha, Abu Dhabi, Manama, are waking up to sirens, explosions, and smoke. Dubai International Airport, one of the busiest airports on the planet, has been hit and damaged. Qatar's LNG energy sites have been struck. A UK military base in Cyprus, a NATO ally, has been attacked by an Iranian drone. An oil tanker off the coast of Oman was hit by an explosive-laden boat, killing at least 1 crew member. And Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson told NPR on Sunday in plain English, "This is an unjust war imposed on our nation. We have no other choice other than fighting. This is not a conflict that is threatening to start. This is a conflict that is 3 days old, spreading by the hour, and showing absolutely no signs of slowing down." So let us take you through everything, how this started, what Iran's counterstrike actually looks like on the ground right now, what the human cost already is, and what comes next in the hours and days ahead. The road to this moment is important because it tells you why Iran's response is as ferocious as it is. By January 2026, Iran was already burning from within. Nationwide protests had erupted across all 31 provinces following one of the worst economic collapses in the country's modern history. These were the largest demonstrations since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's response was to unleash the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the besieged militia, who opened fire with live ammunition, shotguns, and drones. Thousands were killed. Iran then imposed the longest internet blackout in its own history to hide the scale of the violence. The country was already fracturing when the United States and Israel made their decision. On February 19th, Trump issued a 10 to 15-day ultimatum to Iran. Accept a deal to permanently end nuclear enrichment, restrict ballistic missiles, and cut ties with proxy groups, or face military action. Indirect talks were actually moving. Omani mediators described genuine progress in Muscat on February 6th, and a second round was scheduled for Geneva. But on February 27th, Iran refused to formally commit to never acquiring a nuclear weapon, and that was the end of the diplomatic road. The same night, Trump flew to Mar-a-Lago and monitored the opening of Operation Epic Fury from there. At 2:30 in the morning Eastern Time on February 28, 2026, the bombs started falling. Israel and the United States launched a coordinated, massive assault across Iran, targeting nuclear infrastructure, ballistic missile facilities, air defense systems, naval headquarters, the entire IRGC command structure, and critically, the Iranian leadership itself. The Israeli Air Force dropped more than 1,200 munitions across 24 of Iran's 31 provinces within the first 24 hours. US B-2 and B-1 bombers hit hardened underground facilities. The strikes reached everywhere: Azazadi Stadium, Azadi Square, Milad Tower, Iranian state television headquarters, hospitals in Tehran, military bases across the country. And then came the news that reshaped everything. On the morning of March 1st, Iranian state broadcaster delivered the confirmation the world had been dreading. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the 86-year-old man who had run the Islamic Republic since 1989, was dead, killed in a strike targeting his office in Tehran. The broadcaster delivered the announcement in tears. Iran declared 40 days of national mourning, and then it struck back with everything it had. Iran's retaliation is not a proportional, measured response. It is a multi-directional, simultaneous offensive that is hitting across 9 countries at once. Let's go through what has actually been confirmed. Israel took ballistic missile strikes with at least 9 people killed in the Beit Shemesh area near Jerusalem, with 40 buildings in Tel Aviv damaged. Qatar's Air Force shot down 2 Iranian Su-24 fighter jets and intercepted 7 ballistic missiles and 5 drones over Doha. Qatar also confirmed that 2 energy-related sites inside its borders were struck. And given that Qatar is among the world's largest LNG exporters, energy markets absorbed an immediate shock. Kuwait International Airport was hit. The U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain's Jufair district was targeted. Bahrain's international airport was struck by a drone, causing material damage. Buildings were damaged in the Sif commercial district of Manama. Iran launched strikes towards Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and the UAE. Jordan's armed forces reported intercepting 49 drones and ballistic missiles. The Jordanian capital Amman saw sirens. Jordan then closed its airspace every night from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. until further notice, and dense smoke was seen near what were described as unconfirmed reports of a downed F-15 over Jordanian territory. In Oman, a commercial oil tanker, the MKD Vyam, was hit 52 nautical miles off the coast of Muscat by an explosive-laden boat, causing an engine room explosion that killed at least one crew member. An Iranian drone struck a runway at a UK military base in Cyprus, the sovereign base area of Akrotiri, drawing Britain directly into the physical blast radius of this war for the first time. More than 20 people were killed in a single strike on Nilufar Square in central Tehran. That one was a secondary hit from Iranian missile debris falling back on Iranian civilians, a haunting and devastating detail that illustrates how chaotic the battlefield overhead has become. And debris from an Iranian ballistic missile fell near Damascus in Syria, injuring a man and his 3 daughters, as the shrapnel of this conflict reaches countries that aren't even a party to it. The human cost is already staggering and still rising. As of Monday at 1 p.m. GMT, the Al Jazeera live tracker confirmed at least 555 people killed inside Iran from U.S.-Israeli strikes across 131 counties. The most devastating single incident remains the elementary school strike in Manab in southern Iran, where Iran's health ministry head of public relations confirmed that approximately 180 young children were killed. The Iranian Red Crescent Society reported 201 civilians killed and 747 wounded just on day 1. In Israel, at least 10 people are dead. 4 American service members have been killed. The 4th died Monday from injuries sustained when an Iranian munition broke through air defenses and hit a fortified tactical operations center in Kuwait. 5 more Americans are seriously wounded. 5 more people have been killed across Gulf states. And on day 2, Trump told Fox News that 48 Iranian senior leaders were killed in the first wave of strikes. Then, on the same day, he told ABC News something even more chilling, that the strikes had been so successful they eliminated most of the people the U.S. had identified as potential post-Khamenei leaders, saying, "It's not going to be anybody that we were thinking of because they are all dead. Second or third place is dead." That statement alone reveals the terrifying scope of what is unfolding. The U.S. and Israel didn't just kill the supreme leader, they killed most of the succession plan as well. There is now a 3-person emergency leadership council running what is left of the Iranian government. The Assembly of Experts must formally choose a new supreme leader, but that process was designed for peacetime, not for a country under active bombardment, with its internet cut, its institutions shattered, and its military fighting on 9 simultaneous fronts. Iran's foreign ministry stated that the military had lost control over several units, which were now operating on old general instructions, meaning Iranian forces may be conducting attacks based on pre-programmed contingency orders, not real-time command decisions. That is arguably the most dangerous sentence in this entire story, because it means no one on the Iranian side may have the authority or capacity to stop what has already been set in motion. Back in Washington, the political ground is shifting beneath the operation. CNN and NPR both reported that Pentagon briefers told congressional staff something that directly undermines the stated justification for the war, that Iran was not planning to strike U.S. forces unless Israel attacked Iran first. That means there was no imminent threat. That means the administration launched a war of choice while simultaneously claiming a defensive necessity. Senate Democrats moved war powers resolutions in both chambers. Senator Tim Kaine called it plainly, an illegal, unconstitutional war launched without congressional approval. But the votes don't have the 2/3 majority needed to override a presidential veto. So legally, the war continues regardless of the debate. And Trump is showing no hesitation. He told CNBC the operation was ahead of schedule. He told ABC News he got Khamenei before Khamenei got him, referencing the 2024 DOJ charges over an Iranian plot to assassinate Trump before the presidential election. He wrote on Truth Social about Iran's Navy, "We are going after the rest. They will soon be floating at the bottom of the sea also." Internationally, the picture is fractured in ways that matter enormously. The UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer confirmed Sunday that he had granted U.S. requests to use British military bases in Cyprus for, quote, defensive strikes aimed at intercepting Iranian retaliatory missiles. Then, an Iranian drone hit one of those same British bases. Australia's foreign minister said Monday that Canberra will not join the campaign. The EU called the conflict greatly concerning and urged restraint, though the EU Commission president also quietly backed a credible transition inside Iran. Turkey, a NATO member that gets 15% of its natural gas from Iran, is calling for an immediate ceasefire and has reportedly closed its airspace to military aircraft moving toward the conflict zone. China's foreign minister described the U.S.-Israeli strikes as unacceptable. Russia has said nothing supportive of Washington's position. The Strait of Hormuz, which Iran announced it was formally closing on Sunday, remains the single most economically consequential flashpoint of the entire conflict. 20% of the world's oil passes through that narrow body of water every single day. If that closure holds for even a week, the economic consequences for fuel prices, food transport, and global inflation will be felt from Tokyo to Johannesburg to Buenos Aires. And then came the development on Monday, March 2nd, that changed the Lebanon calculation completely. Hezbollah launched a fresh missile attack on Israel, and Israel responded by launching what its northern command chief described as a first broad wave of strikes in Beirut and southern Lebanon, targeting senior operatives, headquarters, and terrorist infrastructure. 31 people were killed in Lebanon on Monday. The Lebanese government, in a remarkable political move, immediately banned Hezbollah's military activities and demanded the group surrender all weapons to the state. Hezbollah refused, saying it will only disarm after full Israeli withdrawal from Lebanese territory. So Lebanon is now simultaneously being bombed by Israel, trying to disarm its own most powerful armed group, and hosting a reignited front in a conflict that its government explicitly does not support. The Houthis in Yemen, while condemning the attack on Iran, have not yet resumed Red Sea shipping attacks, but analysts note that restraint could end at any moment. Where does this go from here? There are now 4 things that will determine the shape of the next week. The first is whether Iran's ballistic missile stockpile can be depleted fast enough by U.S. and Israeli strikes to reduce the intensity of attacks on Gulf cities. If Iranian missile launch capacity is degraded significantly, the retaliatory wave begins to thin out. If it isn't, the Gulf region faces weeks of sirens and evacuations. The second is what happens with Hezbollah. A full-scale Hezbollah offensive against northern Israel opens a ground war front that Israel has not fully prepared for simultaneously with the Iran operation. The third is the Strait of Hormuz. Every additional day of closure translates directly into oil price spikes, supply disruptions, and political pressure on every government in Asia and Europe that depends on Gulf energy. The fourth, and most unpredictable, is what emerges from Iran's leadership vacuum. Trump destroyed the succession plan. Whoever steps into the void, whether a hardline IRGC general, a pragmatist from the Assembly of Experts, or some combination of competing factions, will define whether there is any path to a ceasefire or whether this war simply has no one on the Iranian side with the authority and the political will to stop it. Iran has struck back. It struck back harder than most people expected. It struck in 9 countries at once, hit civilian airports, targeted energy infrastructure, attacked allied bases, and made clear that whatever happens to its leadership, its military and its proxies will keep fighting. The question this war now asks, loudly, urgently, with every missile that rises and every plume of smoke that hangs over another Gulf city, is whether the force that brought this moment on has a plan for what comes after. Because the strikes were the beginning. What comes next is the part nobody has fully written yet. Stay subscribed. We are covering every hour of this, and the next 48 hours will matter for decades.